Good evening, everyone, and welcome to In the Interim. I'm really excited, an all-time record today. I'm very excited about it. Is joining us, Kate graduated from Wayne State University in 2009 and completed at Henry Ford Hospital. She practiced as an emergency medicine specialist at St. Joseph Mercy and was a manager. But the exciting part is she's here now at Michigan, chair of the RAC. People talking about RAC. RAC is the Residency Advisory Committee. What the processes are going to be for the residency program and how are things going to go. Faculty member at the College of Pharmacy, graduate of the College of Pharmacy, but does residency down in Tennessee, but we've involved extensively in helping our students prepare for interviewing, whether it's, I'm really happy Mike will be jumping in here soon, and when he does, we will. I want to give today, there is a Q&A feature during the webinar that you can ask questions with your name or a non-center at the bottom of your screen. I will have a Q&A live if you'd like to ask questions, maybe to 20 minutes or so that we can answer as many questions as you like. But I can tell you I'm already getting questions because we'll do that. So I see that Dr. Kraft has joined us.
Good.
He doesn't have a background. And hear what Kate's got to say about what is this background we're looking at, Kate?
This is Michigan Medicine over Island Park. And I am not from Ann Arbor, didn't go to school. So when I made the move to Michigan Medicine and moved my family out here, this was actually, it holds kind of a special place in my heart because I didn't realize how close it was to the hospital and a day of work to kind of decompress, and it's a really beautiful nature trail.
I'm enjoying it. I'm pretending that you're in a park right now, so that sounds good.
Sure. Affirm my qualifications so that people think I know what I'm talking about. So I try to put academic looking.
There it is. That's wonderful.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we've got all kinds of people here. We've got over 60 people situation. And to be honest with you, I look at the job numbers. If I read anything on Reddit, boy, but that's what you read anyway. And so it's bound to instill fear. And then you top that for a job, you're likely to be in a situation like this rather than traveling to a place, a position, someplace that you've actually never been or seen with your own eyeball. Job, sight unseen, never seen the place, maybe even seen the city, are going to be in that kind of a situation. So I guess, Kate, I'll start with you. Graduate students, BSPS students, PharmD students?
Yeah,
what are you thinking?
So some of the advice that I give to all of my academic, right? I've been doing this now for about 10, 11 years, is easier said than done, but be open to interview. So I think that I can definitely attest to how stressful it might be to have to move for a permanent position. I think that there should be some sort of people that are recruiting for residencies or for positions are doing their hardest job of trying to get information in medicine. So I think that it's pushing us to incorporate a lot more technology, not only a bit blind, because I think that the most successful organizations or residency programs are personal opinion.
Well, you just said something that I need to understand what you mean. What is your stuff?
Yeah, so we have set up through ASHP a pre-interview that typically is done in, this year it's all virtual, but they're still planning on doing it. And the intent of a pre-interview is a program to kind of get a feel for what that residency is like. It's meant to be a good conversation, so people looking for residencies to ask important questions that you cannot find online, but more, tell me a little bit about the culture at your institution that you can't find that information. So you do these tiny mini interviews in December. On-site interview when you're talking to a lot more people happen in January.
Even those are going to be virtual. Right.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Kraft, I know you teach a class, right? So I'm going to put the plug in at every P3, but I know a lot of that pre-interview is getting your CV right. We're not going to go through that maybe you have, and also what's available to our students for getting CVs reviewed.
I think that's an important point, and this year more and if you haven't already, start looking at your CV and get in the habit of updating it, doing that more routinely. I think, you're going to get a lot of different opinions. You could ask 10 people. Some things that are more absolute, like typos and grammar mistakes and lack of attention to detail, are going to make sure that you're reviewing that, have others review it, and make sure you have that exaggerate, but don't sell yourself short. You want to highlight every accomplishment that you can think of and speak to. If I should do this, and my advice is ask yourself 3 questions. 2, how does this make me stand out as a better applicant or as a better professional? I think I'm going to say. And I think ultimately it's how well do you want to put your best foot forward, or the best candidate for this position. And so you want to make sure you're including all, and you don't have to take exactly what one person says top to bottom, and that's the way your CV should look. Get what you think looks best for you.
Yeah, and I think it's important.
The other thing, I'll keep it consistent. One section looks like that. Keep it consistent. Whatever you decide. CV is different depending on the kind
of job you're looking for. I think the residency-centric person's must do an industrial fellowship or a research fellowship. They're going to be different, and you have to have an eye on that. You get different answers anyway. When I do these reviews, I just say, here's what I would do, and here's why I would do it, but it's your CV. That's kind of the way I go. All right, so I'm going to go to Dr. Starosta. I'm that you've already been talking with P4 students about that, so I don't want to beat that to death, but there's sort of the is opting out of the ASHP. What's Michigan medicine?
So we're still in the process of talking about that because there's new info weekly now. So 2 weeks ago, my answer would have been different. 2 weeks ago, my answer would have grown effort where look on our website, all of our information's there. There's going to be signups, and that is programs, local programs are doing that. ACCP and ASHP are dropping prices.
That just came out today.
So we're going to be discussing a little bit more at the Residency Advisory Committee. September 18th at 5:41 p.m. All of our information is on open to that change because it might change.
Dr. Kraft, ASHP mid-year great, and we really got everybody ready to go for that, but it's not going to be like it was. That for example, the Southeast Michigan group, will they put together?
No, yeah, they are looked at, try to look at some others, and I think that's one of the things. And I think more than ever moving forward, you as applicants for jobs or positions or residencies or program websites than ever, which is to your advantage. But as we'll showcase, I'd looked at some others. We often have a lot of students interested in California. CS and ACCP, American College of Clinical Pharmacy, is having theirs, and they made it free and don't even have to be a member. Are trying to adapt to this and entice individuals to participate. So they're going to be, I'm sure there's going to be more coming, and individual programs as well. So there'll be opportunities to participate in
I can see a student going crazy though, these Michigan, but probably, you know, I know we have students who want to be in Chicago or California or so many of these things, and it's going to make it crazy. And a lot of times they're a meat market that you don't necessarily get noticed. So blood pressures already go up at this time of year. I know. That's why I like to actually have these conversations now while we're still a little bit where it gets so crazy, as you know, the pressure, and I'm not making fun of it because I mean, it's just, there's a lot of pressure.
Yep.
So recommendations of how to get the networking going.
I can start. So what I think is important, and it's not overwhelming in November and December when a lot of places are doing their own homegrown. Easy when you went to a meeting or to ASHP midyear, you show up, you walk into this big arena and you're like, I can hit. It's not to say that you can't still do that in a virtual environment. It's just going to take a little bit more time to do. So kind of start early and meditate to reach out to your mentor, to your preceptors on ideas or where they came from. You're looking for your next job or your residency.
Well, all right. I'm a sort of the Coke Zero can is half full. Nothing else yet. But what's the good side about this? I mean, our students were place, and it was crazy. So what are some of the upsides of this that you see? And work will never be the same. What do you think?
I think, and Kate can chime in, of course, but I think, as I said, I think programs are going to be forced to innovate and rethink how they attract as far as applicants being able to gather information and learn about programs than they ever were able to. That's going to force, there's no doubt that we're going to be forced to do all of that. I think it's necessarily change, and I think, you know, I'm biased, but I think we've always done a really great job of preparing. You know, do your homework. Consider what factors are important to you about whether it's residency. It's going to be more homework, but how are you going to decide which programs you want to apply to? And I think it's going to, as opposed to, you know, at least in the short term through ASHP, just PHP and ACCP and alphabet soup of all these sites, you just won't be. It's going to be force the programs to take big steps forward in how they're.
So Kate, I'm wondering if, as you've thought about how it's going to be different, decent template of like how you're going to score candidates, or how, like as if I have messy stuff over here. I mean, what are some of the things that I thought about before? I don't really need just the background, but maybe that's something. But what will be formulas? But just a couple of them, really. Let's just stay between us. You know, no one's online listening.
I can't say for sure that anything is going to be different because I think that the skills that we're looking for, or what makes a change in this virtual environment, I didn't see it change even last year. I mean, we interviewed in person and then it was virtual, except some of the operations. So, you know, things we're looking for don't change. You know, experience with research and writing, if you have that.
Everybody has it. We know that everybody's got research. We know that everybody's got a present.
Yeah, exhibitions and having some sort of broad range experience with rotation. Again, that's a great thing that is already built into this program. When it comes to form, I think it's still the same kind of do's and don'ts. You know, being conversation, that doesn't change in front of a camera. It might be a different practice though.
Let's talk about that. So Dr. Kraft, mock interviewing, I think it will never, probably the mock interview needs to be virtual.
I 100%. That's certainly my course. Like we do mock interviews, 100% it's going to be, I'm going to force it to be virtual. Last year we did a lot of, right. The things that are valuable and help you stand out and, you know, shows the logistics of it. And, you know, you'd want to be careful about your nonverbal communication, your answers to questions. That doesn't change in this virtual environment. You know, it's just that you now, and so it's going to be that preparation of making sure that you are controlling that, that so you can be successful. There are advantages to that though, right? About everybody I'm interviewing with right there. And if I've got the camera line, I can be reading that and referring to that, and they are advantages to take, you know, that you can, you know, use this to your advantage.
Yeah, so our students, I mean, they have, like you've offered it already in your P17, lead can be an interview. Your preceptors can be an interview. You can, some of our deans, many of our deans, to have an appointment who are happy to do this. I think I mock interviewed about, didn't do it, then Jolene did it, because and you will get the practice. If you don't have the practice, it would be your own. Came up, and I want to remind the audience, if you've got a question you kind of want to ask anonymously, or you want me to ask it for you, raise your hand. And I see Nicole has soon. I'm going to call on her in a second. But first, this questionship experiences. Some clinical pharmacy managers seem to value, because I think if I ask Kate, she's going to tell me what she thinks about internships. Is there an official Michigan medicine position on this?
Yeah, I mean, I've precepted in lots of different programs, and I think most of the programs are looking for some sort of background with an internship, whether that's at is kind of getting those soft skills of being able to interact with not only patients, nurses, which are in the hospital, but also help you lead your way into whatever residency path that might be, whether that's a community or a PGY1 pharmacy. Programs I've precepted, that seems to be a valuable thing that we look for in our candidate.
Yep. I think I'd add to that how you put things on your CV and asking yourself those 3 questions, right? How does this make me stand out as a better candidate? Bullet points of things you accomplished, right? Quantify your accomplishments, right? You want to highly stand out as a better candidate, because even if they don't necessarily value that, but you include that information, a good fit for their program.
And I don't want people to feel discouraged. They're hard to come by now. They were really easy when I was a student. Nobody wanted to be a hospital intern. Now it's really hard to find them. So there's other ways that you can kind of bolster your CV, or want to feel that if you don't have that experience, that means like, oh, residency's not for me. I'm with you.
All right. So the purpose of this program was networking. Super important people like the both of you. And so do you have any advice on how these folks, how the people in the audience can network? Like in Chicago, or somebody wants to be in Northern California, whatever. What's your, or even because it feels like you're sitting home in your own apartment, like, how can I network with anybody? What advice might you give?
No, that's a great question. That you may have available to you can really be an advantage. You've got, through here, if you have an internship or job through those connections, some of our alumni will cold call them, but many of the faculty here may have connections to those alumni in your network. And I think that becomes more important than ever this year, because that could be a way, to get to all of them. If you do your homework and figure out, these are the things I want in a residency or a job, who do we know, or who can I make contacts with to help me get more information about these different showcases that will happen.
So I agree. So my advice would be, somebody should know it. Particularly your faculty and preceptors must know what it is you want to do, because I come in contact with, and I know somebody who happens to live in Kentucky, advancement office, Mr. Nibala particularly, is someone who's connected. Our alumni are all over the world for a connection to be made. But if he doesn't know it, or I don't know it, or your mentor doesn't know it, then we can most active alumni group of any college of pharmacy anywhere, and they are so loyal, and they want to be reached. So it's up to you. So you can't really maybe network, set your LinkedIn site ready to go, and have your CV ready to go, so that I can make it happen. They can look you up and the conversation could start. And that's what you want. Now, Kate, I'll ask you, because you've worked at a lot of different places. What are some things that 1, 2, 3s in the audience, what are some things they can do? Because by the time they're a P4, they're committed, that they can do.
So I think some different leadership stations is a great way to, one, not only network, but to build your CV. Volunteering also as well. Whether that's volunteering at an organization or tutoring students and residents, some different things that you can kind of get involved in. Mike, do you have other ideas?
Excuse me. Yeah. I think that even as a P, take advantage of every single rotation. P1s, 2s, 3s as well. Like this, I want to do a residency in ID down the road. Do you have something related to infectious diseases I could work on? That's extra good ways as well. Because then that's another thing to put down your CV and you can talk about in your interviews as well.
I had a student tell me once, I approached, and it was that wonderful, because even if you're not going to work there, you might get them as a letter recommendation that comes later about the professional organizations. But I would say quality over quantity, being a leader in one, and leader doesn't mean president. Leader means I led this particular, is way more important. And right now we have the P1s who are trying out for all these different things. Some of them are, like, if they really think hard about one, but really delving into that, or volunteering, I think is really the way to go from my perspective.
Agreed.
Now, a question just came up in volunteering in clubs, and I'm going to start this one out and say, get a job. Pharmacy experience cannot be beat, because I'll tell you what, when the job interview comes to you, and it's always a physician who didn't do whatever that you wanted to do, a patient who was not happy, you'll have the answer to every interview question that there is if you've got a job. And so that way, plus you have a question just came up. Michelle asks, when you're reaching out to programs, into the RPD or a resident, both, neither, what would you? By the way,
I'm used to, and what you're trying to get at. I think that most RPDs are always oftentimes now a lot of larger programs have a coordinator So that's also an appropriate place to start. If it's something more, I'm having this gut feeling like I'm not sure I want to go down PGY1 community or PGY1 pharmacy, I'm trying to feel that out. So reach out to a resident for something like that. So I don't want there to be stress. It's, oh man, this person emailed me. It's out there because we want people to connect with us. And if it can go to a coordinator or a resident.
Don't book somebody 10 times. All right, we got an audience member who wants that.
Hi, thank you both for doing this. I'm just trying to imagine this as a candidate applying for place, even applying to pharmacy school or jobs, that even on their website, even when you ask questions, you just don't know until for me to describe that other than a feeling. And I'm really having a hard time imagining how that's supposed to be. Do you think that places will have on-site visits? Do you recommend asking for them? Is that like not okay during COVID?
We just, for those who weren't there, we discussed this. That to me is the biggest gap in this process, or the students who go to networking sessions or mid-year and say, this program was awesome, and I talked to the residents, and they vice versa, like, I wasn't sure about this program, and man, the residents just couldn't stop raving about the program, and difficult to replace. I think the best thing, my advice, and Kate, I'd be curious, it's going to be virtual. I would assume that. I probably wouldn't even ask about on-site, just because I think with COVID situation, to doing your research, what is really important to you, number one, and some of that might be, what's the practice environment like? What are the class? What's the relationship like with the preceptors? What types of mentorship? Whatever it is, to have a chance to talk to residents and ask about that. And I say the residents because they're the ones who are going to tell you, they're going to give you the straight story about what they're feeling and what their experience has been like. Highly, or would you hope to be at this program? Doing your best to try to get at by some of that in-person, connection. But I think that's about the best you can do. And how to use this in programs, I think will also be helpful. So Kate, I don't know what you might add to that. So
what we're doing at Michigan are trying to provide a virtual environment like this that you do break out. Not all places, but a lot of people are doing that. I've been getting contacted from other programs of how you do this. So I think programs are those feels from. And when you do your on-site virtual interview, hopefully you have a resident session, some of those more inside details on the feel of it. Because that's going to be your best bet.
An approach important to follow an approach I've sometimes suggested. Environment there. I would say plan on asking that question to every person you talk to, and then come good about that sentiment. If you're getting answers all over the board, or it's a red flag, that's going to be about. I think the government is really like there. That was a great question because that's going to be really tough.
Anything else at the hall?
Thank you.
Okay, great. So Kate, can you tell me interview? Do we know what it is yet?
Yes, we are still doing Michigan days. We have tentatively agreed to the last three. Remember those dates? Historically, we did them all on 1 week. We're kind of like spreading it out a little bit. We'll still have Michigan days.
So what that means for all students who are on the call, if you've got a competitive GP, 2/3, 3/4 of the class, that's competitive. I'm not saying if you're below that you can't get a residency, but I'm telling you just in general, that's how that goes. We'll make it happen for you. Be serious about wanting to do that residency at Michigan. If you
need to apply to our program too.
Yeah, you have to apply. We're not interviewing you if you don't apply. That's the first thing that has to happen, right, Mike? On my Q&A page, thinking about applying for residencies. So is it a clinical residency or does it matter so much to you?
If for residency, if their internship was clinical or not.
The question is, do I need a clinical internship essentially to get to the clinical residency?
I mean, if you have it, great, but if you don't, I would not. How you, prepare your CV and things that you highlight and your letter of intent and questions. It's about the skills that you developed and the accomplishments that you. Clinical internships in the country for everybody who wants who's going to get a residency to have those. And it's, do you have the skills and can you develop those skills that align with what we offer as a program?
All right, I'm open up if there's any last questions for the group, and I'll wait to see if there's our students to get them ready for the job market. What things can they expect to be ready to go, whether, don't care what it is. What do we have for them?
Yep, we've got for internship session coming up, the mid-year session, which we do. I believe Caitlin and are going to do a session on preparations for like interviews and things like that. So not specific to residencies, it'll be threes. We just covered CVs today in P501. And so we'll be talking in next, myself, Dr. Klein, and others I know are happy to help, as questions arise. Residency, as I said, we will have another session in November, but I think many of you who are here probably already have access to how valuable that will be. Use your direct connections there. For those who are interested in internship, for the Michigan process is going to start, the application will be open for about a month. The good news about that, I think, is that, for those, it was a hard decision. But what it also tells me is that even if we're not able to offer you an internship, even if you're unfortunately not offered a position with our internship, we try to get out ahead of a lot of other process, and you're hopefully then more prepared to be successful in another internship that comes up as well.
Said the word intern, but all my questions just so that the students have to work or something else. And it's probably too late if they're a P1. They're applying for the intern before the internship,
right? We talked in class today. I think it gets back even when you get down the road for residencies and pharmacy experience for my internship, I'm not going to be competitive. Absolutely not. At the developed. And an example I've often is someone said, "Oh, I worked as like a wait staff," or are you kidding me?
Really
like customer service, and sometimes having to deal with irate customers and upload and prioritize tasks. Like, think about the skills that you developed and how they would translate.
Scooping ice and all that sort of thing.
Right.
Absolutely. Somebody said in the chat here, many shadowing opportunities with COVID. There may be some sites where you can, but we're not looking to have more people. And when you can start uploading documents?
Yep, it's at the very beginning of November, which I think is November 3rd, is updating all of your stuff. So
I'm going to try to call on Catherine Harmer, who's shouting out to everybody. But would you want Catherine Harmer? Are you? Can you unmute yourself and tell us what you want to say about what program you're talking about here?
It's Katie. I just wanted to if you need help with your CV, there's a dual event with PVC and Phi Lambda Sigma. The CV workshop on Monday with us.
Wonderful. See, there are so many resources.
Yep.
There's not an excuse for you not to be ready to go. It's been great. We've had wonderful questions. This has been great. I want to thank my guests about the opportunities. I actually do think that the glass is half full, and I'm Starosta and Dr. Kraft for being on. And I want to tell everybody, we're going to put this, it's taped, and really I'm excited about next week's session. We're going to have, he is the professor at the University of Michigan, and he's also the president of the Society COVID about ID as a career. He's got a different career path of something like that. So I'm really excited about having Dr. Pogan. I'm hoping everybody so that you can sign up. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you so
and we'll see you
much.
next week.
Thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Starosta.